Hi everyone, Tracy Abelese with you for an evening movement practice. So I'm not really sure what your day has included, but typically by the end of the day, our body's been a little beat up. We've either been paying attention to it and doing a lot of exercise, right? So we might be feeling that, or we've been neglecting our body and maybe really even the awareness between the two, right? The mind and the movement that sometimes have a disconnect. So I want to just give you something that will help settle your body down at least. This isn't by any means a long, deep yin practice or something that's really going to get deeper into the fascia, but it's enough to hopefully help alleviate some of just the everyday stress and damage we kind of do on our poor bodies. It also is a salve for kind of your central nervous system. So in completion of this practice, you might even add a little bit of the whiskey breathing. That would be the perfect time. And then hopefully, man, you will sleep like I don't even like to say babies because I had twin babies and they didn't sleep, but like a really well-rested person, right? So we'll get started. We're going to lie down. The only thing really that I would say would be beneficial is if you have something for underneath your neck, just so that cervical spine has a little bit of comfort underneath it. All right, so we'll get started. So just either on the ground next to your bed, maybe even your bed if that feels comfortable. I don't know what your mattress situation is, but wherever is comfortable for you, you're just gonna lie down here and bring a hand on your belly. And a hand, it could be up on your heart, but sometimes this doesn't always feel so good with maybe your elbow not reaching the ground. So sometimes I just put it kind of right where my ribs meet and then lower down on my belly. This is just going to give you a little bit of proprioceptive feedback. Specifically, what are we looking for? How is your breath? Right? The breath is the barometer very often for what's going on in the body. So it's like taking your temperature here. Is your breath thready? Is it deep? Is it congested somewhere, meaning it's not moving fully? And then I would encourage you to start to feel it deeper down. We like to call it belly breath. And there's not really such a thing, but our diaphragm, when it contracts downwards, kind of like a jellyfish moving. So while your belly really isn't moving, the diaphragm moves down and you feel this spaciousness on your inhales. So just notice that. Let your shoulder blades get really kind of comfortable and then just lift up the arms and really kind of pull one arm and then the other out. And when you set them back down, think about leaving a really clear impression like you were going to make snow angels or something like that. So you really feel like they're balanced on your back body. And then once they feel really balanced, just try to release your arms and almost just make a little bit of sway and movement. This one's much trickier than you realize because we've been using our arms all day, right? So we feel a little robotic. But instead, again, thinking maybe like that jellyfish, just find some softness in there. It's okay if you feel silly. You're home alone. Nobody can see you being silly, right? But eventually your arms are going to be like, yeah, okay. Your shoulder blades, the scapulas on your back start to feel like heavy anvils, right? And then the arms release down. If it feels okay to let the palms be facing up and a little bit of an external rotation, great. If that doesn't feel okay, don't do it. Good, and then just start to gently roll from ear to ear, establishing a little bit of a cervical twist. So these are the highest vertebrae in the neck. You can just kind of feel, and if you reach a spot where you're like, oof, what's going on there? You can always even use your hands to just do a little bit of massage up the scalenes, the side neck muscles, into the occipitals, right around the base of your hairline. All these places that just feel like things get stuck and tension lives. You can even just kind of manually manipulate that, or thumbs around the ears, all those things that feel really nice. Just keep your throat soft, eyes either closed or your gaze, really just like you were looking at a loved one. Eventually just settle that down. Feel how the shoulders are resting on the back body. And then turn your attention into your low back. So your feet have been planted. So there's certainly this beautiful curvature in your lumbar spine. It's present, but a lot of us from sitting all day are starting to lose this natural curvature. Kind of anthropologically speaking, we're worried about this. So we're gonna just play a little bit with what will it feel like to bring our belly down towards the ground and erase that curvature and then let it naturally roll up, right? So think about almost like pushing a piece of toast down into the toaster and then letting the toast pop out. If I just made you hungry, I'm so sorry. Good, just a few more times. So you're thinking about imprinting your spine without using your glutes. This is all happening kind of low down. Sometimes you could even slide your hands underneath there to make sure, yes, I can't pull my fingers out. It's working. Good. And then just relax that. Let's extend our left leg long, and immediately that blood flow starts to come back into the hip flexor area, and we'll bring our right knee into our chest. So the range of motion here doesn't have to be big, but I'm going to keep my hand on my knee, and I'm going to think about moving not so much my leg, but rather the upper portion of my thigh bone into the hip. So I could tell you lots of words, and I have plenty, but I would rather you get in there and feel what feels good for you, what feels like, oh, yeah, what's that about? Get in there and move that around, like the Tin Man getting a fresh batch of oil in his body. Good. And then just set the left foot back flat on the ground and cross that right ankle right over. Feeling the hip a little bit. You want to just make sure that you feel wiggled out here, that feels good. Of course, if this is like, I'm not really feeling anything, your next step would be to reach through and take a hold of the leg. That will certainly increase the stretch. If it's too much, you release it and put it right back down on the ground. If it feels good, stay there for about 3 breaths. Remember that we breathe in and out through our nose. The nose is for breathing and the mouth is for eating is the best way to think about it. Go ahead and roll out the left ankle if it's off the ground in both directions. And then set the foot back down, release, and release the right leg long to the ground. Good. Take a moment here. Feel the blood flow through the right hip flexor now before you switch sides. Good. So we'll start by pulling the left knee in. When you do this, your side of your left low back, kind of where the kidneys are located, will feel like it imprints or lies itself down on the ground. That's how you can kind of think about that. And then again, being very aware of what's going on in this hip. Forget about what the other side felt like. Be really curious here. This joint isn't nearly as flexible as the shoulder, but it needs a lot of movement, especially given that it's probably been static throughout the day. Take one more breath. And then simply slide the right foot up and cross that left ankle over. There's usually some immediate feedback, like my left hip is like, what's going on there? So these are the conversations your body gives you. The best advice I could give you is pay attention, listen. Make sure that you are keeping open dialogue between what the information is and the filtering system you have for how much you trust that information. It's your body. And then when you're ready, if you need more, you could pull through. You could also just leave the foot flat on the ground. You can roll through the ankle a few times. Good. One more big breath wherever you are. Slowly release the hands. Set the foot on the ground. Release the left leg long. And then extend the right leg. Good. Just let the legs feel like they're turning out almost from your hips. So as if a big heavy book was resting right on your belly and it just kind of opened up. Even if your feet position don't change, you want to feel like, yeah, I've got a little bit of opening here in my hips. Good. Big breath here. So we're going to move into lateral flexion of the spine. This is a direction of the spine we don't usually use so much during the day. So that being said, it could feel a little bit stuck when we get into it. So you're going to bring your feet back flat on the ground. I'm going to use them to pick up my seat and take it over to the right side of my mat. All right, so my hips have gone right. I'm going to extend my legs to the left. I like to cross mine. Yours might like to just stay. What I don't really encourage is that you come up off of the seat because it's not so much a lateral flexion then. And then once you've established that, you could also move your shoulders to the left side of the mat. So if you could see me from overhead, I would look like the shape of a crescent moon or a banana. That's its name. So if your arms like that and your shoulders like that, if you can handle the upper body weight, the pectorals and all of that collapsing you did all day, this is a great antithesis to that. You can feel this anywhere from the outside of the right knee all the way up to the ribs, and if the arms are overhead, even really into the shoulder area. Your neck might want to go either direction. Take one more big breath here. And be super gentle as you kind of just ease yourself back into a straight line. Make sure you take the time to actually come back into a straight line so your banana got flattened a little bit. And just notice that entire right side of your spine felt really long and super short on your left. So you might notice that blood flow or change of, kind of feeling as the blood has moved through the body. So we'll just take that to the other side. So it's easiest to walk your feet in because they can kind of help you lift up the heavy seat and spine. So I'm now going to the left with my seat. This time I'll show it where I move my upper body first to the right, and then I'll extend my legs to the right. Woo-hoo. So once you get there, this sense, this feeling that you're getting in that side body, for me right now where I'm feeling it is right where my hand is indicating, right? So if you're feeling it there, you might be like, oh yeah, Tracy, totally, right? You could also be feeling it more in the spine. If the arms go overhead, oh my gosh, you could feel it all the way up. If you find that when you get into a pose that it's, for example, moving up the arm, right? That's like a congested freeway that all of a sudden the barricade was moved and all the traffic's trying to move at once. It might be okay as that nerve opens up, but if you ever feel like, I don't know how safe I feel, then just move something until you do. If you haven't practiced this lateral flexion, then this might be where you're really feeling it at the end of the day. We had this exact thing standing in our morning series, if you can remember what that looked like. So if you've been doing the morning series, you'll be like, oh, this is not so bad because you've already been doing that every day and opening up. So that's my little hint for, are you doing your morning series? So breathe here and know that whatever you're doing is enough for the moment you find yourself. Really breathe. Again, you're trying to get that diaphragmatic breath, which will show up more in your belly. Last breath here, in and out through the nose. And again, just take your time.
You want to really spring back using the feet, if you need them, to straighten out your line. Ooh, you're starting to feel, I hope, like a wrung out washcloth, right? At any point, if you just get to the point where you're just like, bring on the whiskey breath, I'm going to bed, that's great. Whatever your body shows up and suggests to you you're ready for. All right, so we'll move on, if you're still with me, into a nice little twist series. So I'm gonna bring my knees in. I'm definitely feeling that through the spine. So I could play a little bit like we did before by bringing my low back down towards the ground and letting it release. So there's a lot of ways to come into twists. So I'm gonna show you probably the easiest and the least, if you will. Having your feet just a little bit wider than hip distance and just allowing the knees to come to one side, right? Pretty simple. This is also the time where if anything shows up in your knees, grab a blanket off your pillow, a pillow off your couch or your bed, and just kind of pad that. So that's a really easy way to come into the twist. If you want it to be a little bit, maybe more, if you're ready to add on a layer, bring your knees into your chest and allow them to come over. This would be a really great time to add a blanket or a pillow, that same pillow underneath your low back. And then I'm on my left with my knees, so I'm gonna just reach that right arm up. I'm gonna just give it a little bit of feedback here. How's it feeling? And if it feels okay, I might open back into it, where I might also then twist through cervical spine or not, right? There's already enough of like a barbershop pole, an old-fashioned barbershop pole, between the pelvis moving in one direction and my ribs moving in the other. So to throw in an extra little bit of a neck twist might not be for you. You could also bring something between the knees. If you're feeling like, gosh, if I only had A, then go and find whatever that is, right? Oh, that's great. My belly's gonna start growling. This will tell me that I am absolutely getting into my parasympathetic nervous system, right? My body's relaxing. Good, nice big inhale. And on your exhale, with a little bit of support from your belly, just bring your legs back, or if your knees were over one direction, pause in the center. Just kind of it's kind of like testing a spring-form cake pan. Like, is the cake ready? Is the cake bounce back underneath you? Maybe I am hungry. So you kind of want to give your body a little bit of that spring back. Same thing this way, just with the knees moving to the right, or bringing the knees more into your chest and bringing them over to the right. I'll start by checking out what's going on in the left shoulder, maybe a little bit of movement. Clearly there's a distance between the back of my shoulder blade and the floor, so I'm not gonna know until I'm real gingerly opening into it if that feels okay. Same thing with the neck. I could look towards my legs. I could have the head just facing up, or even looking the opposite direction. Whatever feels good and right for you. Breathing. Last big breath. Remember, this whiskey category of breath is characterized by about, we've dropped down to about 3 breaths per minute, right? So that is a super slow practice. When you're ready, a little bit of belly assistance on that exhale to bring you back. Good, just notice, observe, wiggle anything out that needs it. Big breath here. Extend your legs out long.
If you sleep with a bolster, pillow, something underneath the legs, go ahead and find that there. Again, anything underneath the neck, wiggle yourself into a nice open position. And whether you're practicing that whiskey category of breath in a inhale to 4 and an exhale to 8, or if you're practicing box breathing, triangle breathing, any retention that naturally happens, this is the perfect place to settle into your breath or settle into your sleep, your calm. Your parasympathetic rest and digest is clearly kicked in. Rest well, breathe deep, and I will see you very soon.